Hey ho, guys and gals, and hello, my friends. This is your host, Joe, Life with Josef. Here's a recent clip of the CHP cruiser being towed, and being on the flatbed is legally being towed with a CHP officer in the driver's seat. This is a violation of the California Vehicle Code 21752. You are not allowed to ride in a towed vehicle. But that's not why I really post this. In 1970, we went on the second of our third trips to the Grand Tetons in Yellowstone. Now, in 1969, in October, my dad had brought home our Ford van. Now, it had the 12 passenger option, the Chateau. And so we took that to Wyoming in 1970, and we went with my aunt and uncle and their four kids, my at the time four cousins, and so we're all in the 12 seats, 12 people, and we're right in one of the developed parts. We come pulling up to the stop sign, and the van won't go, and we're stuck. So the Rangers come, and the Rangers are sworn law enforcement, and they arrange a tow truck. Now we have a problem. How are we going to get 12 people back to camp? There's nothing. We couldn't rent a car. We couldn't do anything. My dad tried, and so I got to give the park ranger and the tow truck driver credit here, because they realized that there were going to be 8 children with no option. So they got the van on the hook, and we got in the van, all 12 of us. And as we were driving to the south exit, which I think is on US 89, but don't hold me to that, we were all in the van on the hook, and the ranger was right behind us with his red cherry, the light on, making sure that everybody behind us knew, hey, you ain't passing. And we did about 30 miles an hour, and one guy thought he was going to pass, and the Rangers shut that shit down in a hurry. So we get to the gate, and now we're off the park. We're out of the national park. So a tow truck comes up from Jackson Hole, and that's where the Ford dealer is now. This is still under warranty, and he's not gonna put all of us in. So one or two of the adults get in, and they go back to camp, and they bring one of the other cars up. I think at the time my uncle still had the Volkswagen. He had a Volkswagen camper. So I think one or two trips, we all pile in eventually, we get brought back to camp. Now the question is, what happened to the van? It's brand new. Now, as I understood it at the time, there was a hairline crack in the bell housing of the transmission, and all the fluid leaked out eventually. So when it failed and it had no fluid, Ford accused my dad of letting the fluid run out. Now, come on, now, dudes, it's a brand new transmission. There's no way it should eat that much fluid. So, I remember my dad. We had to rent a yellow Dodge Dart. So my dad had to go and get an absolute mountain of quarters to be able to talk to the Ford customer rep for the district. And eventually, the dealer figured out about the hairline crack in the bell housing, and it was a manufacturing defect. And we got a new transmission under warranty. Now we had to stay another week, and my dad only got 2 weeks of vacation. My uncle really always I didn't do him right. And so we had to use a week of our 1971 vacations to stay in 1970, but eventually we did, and we drove home. Just us. It seems to me, I remember stopping in Jackpot in Nevada on US 93 on the way home, and we parked across the street from Whiskey Pete's and walked across 95. It was like 5:30 in the morning, in the dark, and it was a two-lane road. So the things you remember. So I have ridden in the back of a vehicle being towed in Wyoming in 1970 in Yellowstone National Park. Now, as I understood it at the time, there was a hairline crack in the bell housing of the transmission, and all the fluid leaked out eventually. So when it failed and it had no fluid, Ford accused my dad of letting the fluid run out. Now come on now, dudes, it's a brand new transmission. There's no way it should eat that much fluid. So I remember my dad, we had to rent a yellow Dodge Dart. So my dad had to go and get an absolute mountain of quarters to be able to talk to the Ford customer rep for the district. And eventually, the dealer figured out about the hairline crack in the bell housing, and it was a manufacturing defect. And we got a new transmission under warranty. Now we had to stay another week, and my dad only got 2 weeks of vacation. My uncle really always said I didn't do him right. And so we had to use a week of our 1971 vacations to stay in 1970. But eventually we did, and we drove home. Just us. It seems to me, I remember stopping in Jackpot in Nevada on US 93 on the way home, and we parked across the street from Whiskey Pete's and walked across 95. It was like 5:30 in the morning, in the dark, and it was a two-lane road. So the things you remember. So I have ridden in the back of a vehicle being towed in Wyoming in 1970 in Yellowstone National Park.
But wait, there's more.
You know, I'm going to add three more things about the van here, the 1970 Ford Econoline van with the Chateau 12-seat option. Number one is my mother loved yellow. Our 1976 Chevette was yellow, and I even think now her front door is yellow. The house that I grew up in, the family house, is blue with a yellow front door because she said it represents the sun and the sky. So our van was a factory yellow, but it wasn't offered in the Econoline series. It was offered in one of the other car series. And my dad paid extra, and this is when you could do stuff like this. The dealer was Golden Bear Ford on University in Berkeley, and this shows how long ago this was. But they were able to get the van painted in a different kind of more like a sunshiny yellow, not school bus yellow. And to our knowledge, it was the only one ever made with that particular yellow. Now the second thing is the license plate was 061 AJU. It's a private, it's a car plate in the car series. Now for 1970, California went from 3 letters, 3 numbers, black on yellow. No, I'm sorry, yellow on black. The black on yellow was prior to 1963. So it was yellow on blue. So we're driving up to the toll gate at the Bay Bridge, and it was a quarter each way. I think it was still the 2-way toll. And the toll booth guy wanted to charge my mother a commercial bus rate. And my mother didn't take a lot of shit by then. She had 4 boys that she was lassoing. There, my dad, God love my dad showed her, look, you cannot lollygag around with these kids. You don't have to beat them. My dad didn't beat me, but God love my mom. God love both my parents. Freya, show my dad a favor on the hunt, and show my mother a favor now. So she tells the guy, no, it's a private vehicle. And the guy's saying, no, it's not. It's, you see 12 people. So we parked there, and they got the toll sergeant out. Now, there's people lined up behind us that probably aren't happy. We must have been there for 5 solid minutes. And my mom had to lay the law down. Here's the VIN number. Check, on the registration. Check it against what the VIN number here is. It is a private vehicle that does seat 12, but the seats come out. So if I didn't have seats in this, and I had my sons here just sitting on the floor, would I still be charged the same? And they're going, and my mom basically said, I'm not going to pay the commercial rate. So I gave you the toll, and I'm going to leave now. And they looked at each other, and they just waved her on. So that's one thing that I remember about the van. Another thing. Now, when I was in high school and after high school, it probably wasn't the coolest vehicle to show up at school in. But I didn't really drink, and I didn't drink and drive. So when we went to the beach or something, this is even when I started to date the she-devil and the ingrate. Everyone would pile in the van, and because I didn't drink and drive, I was the designated driver before it was named that. And I made sure when I drove my friends and my people and my Hanai in the van that everybody got home safe. It was such a cool vehicle to have for hauling people. And one year, I think it was in 1973, I think so, we brought my uncle's boat. So we were driving across Nevada, either US 40 or Interstate 80 when it was still being built. We were going 90 miles an hour. There was no speed limit in Nevada. It was safe and prudent. And we were being passed on the interstate parts. Guys were doing 110, 120, roaring past us like we were standing there. And it got 10 miles a gallon. It got 9 or 10 miles a gallon, whether you were towing a boat at 90 miles an hour, or you were driving around town, or you were driving 55 on the freeway. It didn't matter. It was a great, great vehicle. I wanted to buy something like that in my 20s, and they were expensive, and I couldn't quite find what I wanted that wasn't beaten on. It's like when I bought the Suburban and I bought my Toyota pickup, you could find them used, but not ones with less than 100,000 miles that had been beaten on. When I make these, especially now, it's like, oh, I want to add more here and I want to add more here. There's one more thing as I'm almost ready to make the video. I thought, well, let's talk about what happened to the van. Well, it got sold to somebody my brother knew, and in California, the buyer and the seller are required to notify DMV, and the seller somewhere down the line didn't, and it got sold, and we get something from the DMV, and then my dad had to show him, hey, no. So and so signed off on it, and we filed, and here you go. Which is why, when you go to the DMV, you should always try to get a receipt. Oh, hold on. I didn't deal with the pigeons, and now they've got baby ones up there. Dude does not like pigeons. So Charlie is home on leave. I'm working at the Mercury. I'm a casual. I want to say I was doing 326 and afternoon district. Well, Charlie's got the day off, so he meets me down there. He took this picture right here of me talking to Carrier's dad. Oh God, look how skinny I am. Anyway, Charlie had parked his car, somewhere, I think on First Street, and what used to be a grocery store, and it still was. And we get back after I do the run, drop the papers, and the van is right there, abandoned parked on the curb. Well, in the street on the curb. And I go to my brother and say, "That's our van." He says, "How do you know?" I said, "There's no other van made by Ford, to my knowledge, that has that exact yellow." And I told him the story. And so the sad story of the van is it ended up abandoned, tagged on the side of a street off of First Street, south of 280 in San Jose, Santa Clara County, California. So now about the third time here, I'm gonna close. So this is, as always, your host, Joe, Life with Josef. Thank you for watching another story time and subscribing. Enjoy your day. Peace be with you. May Freya show you favor on the hunt through our fields so soft and green, now and in the afterlife.
Strength and honor.
Strength and honor.
Know your worth and never fucking forget it.
And we'll see you for the next one.